Oh, hello there, it's Madam Siri here again. What I'm talking about the word rock and roll stars, big heavy metal stars like Gene Simmons. Um, I'm talking about other bands like Twisted Sister and Purple and the Deep Purple and many bands out there. And Ozzy Osbourne, the king of heavy metal. I know who else I'm referring to in this video, like things like what happens, how when people get famous, how it's not a very easy job of being a rock star. It's hard, it's difficult, and it's not something that everybody can do. I can never do it. I like doing radio. Yes, I've done that. Yeah, I can do it very well on CFMU and many days. But me thinking about doing that, it's not the kind of business I'm into. The two good reasons, yeah. Number one, that if you look at like Alice Cooper, for example, started in England, and the same way Ozzy started in Backstreet Birmingham. He had no money. He was panhandling on the street and stealing just to survive. And then what happened to him was got himself into trouble. He got good grades in school, and he dropped out. He really didn't like it. Dropped out. He went to jail a little bit. He got out of jail for stealing. And what happened after that? He went in and approached a band called Black Sabbath at the time. Weren't a big hit. They did heavy. While they signed, he joined it and became a very well-known singer on within that, and started having hit after hit. He started pouring in money. Time went on. See, I mean, money kept coming in. Basically, so great, but the money led to drinking. It leads to drugs. It leads to upper. And you think about when you look at a rock star, when he goes out on stage, he going out screaming at the guitar and yelling at the top of lungs. You know something? Honestly, yes, heavy metal stars do it. But two, when they're not on stage, they're not out there putting on that show. When they go on stage, they're putting on a show. And the show is to entertain you, to make you feel energized with the music. And on top of that, you sitting there watching on stage and thinking this is the way they behave in public. Wrong. They don't act that way when they're out. When they're off stage, here's the big story. You know what that is? When they're off stage to do many other things. Like sometimes they will happen when they finish the show and they go off the stage that night, you're getting out of the seat, heading back home, real home. Well, what do you think they do? Well, they're going backstage. They're getting out of what the war on stage, getting into regular street goes and that. And they're going to have and want to get out the door quick. But what happened is they sit there in the room till 2 o'clock in the morning, 3, drinking and partying, having fun in the dressing room till that time. Then they get on a bus. And then they wake up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you know what happens next? What happened when they wake up at 3 p.m. in the afternoon? Think about it. Do you know? I know. Oh, I do know. You wake up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you will end up, in another city. You're pulling up to the next concert hall, getting ready, get off that bus, half asleep, go into dressing, get dressed again, into what you're wearing on stage that night, go out and say, do the show, finish at 11:30, hop back and do the party again, hop on bus at 3, and you sleep and get the next stop. And you know what happened? If you're a teenager, they're full energy, and they load of energy, constant. They're, teenagers have more energy than adults will have because all teenagers are rebellious and rebel toward authority, but some are not, and they mature too in adults. Well, what I'm trying to say here is It's not easy. It's a rock and roll star goes on stage. No, that is a stage at their workplace, like their office, where they make the money. They make millions just performing, and that millions of dollars go right into royalties and sales of trillions of dollars. While it pays for them to be on tour, pays for the diesel fuel for the tour bus. It pays this and that and everything. Pays a lot. Ticket sale, do it. But when people scalp tickets and they try to sell it for outrageous prices, that hurts the performer. Performers losing money from scalp or counterfeit. They lose money that way, so they're not getting their. So Ticketmaster will give the place that doing that holding that rock or doing that performance, like Carl Jim, Carl get 50% of that. Get about they will get around about half it, about 80% of it. Then the rock stars they get around 100% of sales. They make 100% off it. Cops makes about 50% profit off it, and Ticketmaster pockets another 50%. So, and what trickles down to the performer is about it's almost 100%, almost 99%, minus the Ticketmaster fee that was billed to the performer or a band on stage, basically. Well, so there you go. And then people do this, they scalp, counterfeit, and that what happened? Who lose on it? Ticketmaster. They lose a lot of money on that every time they do. They lose a lot of money on scalping out there. Well, they lose a lot of money on other things as well. Huh. You know what else they lose money on? You really want to know? I can tell you. I'm getting tired and late. Yeah, they lose money on everything. Well, you know what I'm thinking about? They lose money there. Why? Scalpers. They get a pocket $100,000 while while ticket masters, they turn around, they're losing that money while they're making that money. Basically, it's win-lose. Those people are not, if you go into a concert, any kind, avoid buying some scalpers. Go to a ticket window and see if they got tickets available to buy. And if they do, buy them from the ticket window at the performance you're going to. Don't buy from scalpers, period. That one way, you know the money's going in to pay the cost of that musician and be there and pay the cost, pay the cost, pay Ticketmaster and pay the cost of operating costs of the show itself, basically. Well, I'm gonna say one thing is a lot of rock stars when they go off that stage and they head out, they go home. They might ask when they do. They may have 5-10 weeks before they do another show. By that time, they head back to a big house. They head back and they sit there, and with their wife and kids. And dad is a rock star. He's eating a meal just like anybody else with the kids, and the kids are like want to know how tour goes, that, and they all kind of other things. He goes out and help people on a run, helping somebody here, helping somebody there, and it totally and go to church just like ordinary person do. That's ordinary behavior in humans, and but that's what rock stars do when they're not on stage. What they do on stage is totally different. It's a performance. Because remember, there's stage at the workplace. Like any stage you go in con, I look at the stage at the performer's workplace, and that's just what it is. The workplace is entertainment. The money revenue for draw pay revenue they get is from entertainment. Like they can pull millions and trillions and trillions. Rock stars become very rich and wealthy. What happened when a person becomes rich and wealthy? Do you want to know a story there? I can tell you one. You know what that is? One story I can say is when people get wealthy, you got people who sit here call them keyboard warriors. They sit like they go da 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 da. Could you? Okay, let's sue. Okay, here we go. $10 million. He done. He put a. He raped me. $10 million. What happened? Well, get a big knock at the door. Well, two heavy armed cops come in with a nice arrest warrant, and here's what they say to you. Hello there. You are under arrest. For what? What am I under arrest for? While you wait this lady, you're going to come with us to the holding cell down at the sheriff's office. For slaps the cuffs on you, roll you down to the sheriff's office, and what happened next? They come in there with the fake big lawyers, and you got your lawyer. You go get your lawyer, a big one too. Try to put in the court, and he say, I didn't do, and go to court. But I plead guilty because I didn't. I plead not guilty because I didn't do a crime. And the judge look at you and go, and they're gonna turn around, demand a jury. Well, of course, what happened? A person doing a lawsuit gonna have all kinds of allies out there that they're gonna try to get in there on a jury. So they're on a list, a jury list, so that this doesn't work out for jury. The jurors come in, and some of the jurors on the side of the accuser, not on the side of the plaintiff. Some on that, but not on the side of you for that. Then he's sitting there, and for then next thing you know, all the money you just made being a rock star have gone out the window. You had no access to it. And your wife is screaming about money, and you can't they missed all went there on stage to make the money. So all of a sudden, all that money is paid out to that person, and you sitting there in a pool house, have to start all over again just to build your reputation because they took it from you, and that makes you so angry that you don't want to know. And that happened to a famous rock star by the name of Prince, the Purple Prince, they called him. Well, somebody did that to him. He was so upset and so depressed by this, he committed suicide after he'd been sued, after payout. Why? Because he said they destroyed his workplace on stage, destroyed his credibility. These are things that do happen to rock stars day in, day out. I can explain, even a while back, Justin Bieber had been told he did this and that. Why somebody accused her, what happened to that accuser? Well, apparently it backfired because Justin Bieber said that because Justin Bieber had a video footage with nothing in the background they posted on YouTube, but also Justin Bieber was smart enough too, but had a goddamn good lawyer. And guess what? They found that the witness was lying, told a tale that wasn't true. And guess what? That witness went down a tube. Justin Bieber kicked in the clean from there. There was a lawsuit that even happened to Lacey Osborne, saying he did a homophobic act he did something called saying they're pedophile young kids and young ladies and all that. It turned out Ozzy Osbourne had a lawyer, a very wealthy lawyer, $1 million, $10 million lawyer. He's so rich. You know what he did? Well, the Osbourne family and their lawyer got up and they took that person to court, and guess what? The person lost, and he ended up, what happened to him? He was ordered to do 200,000 hours, 200 days in the penitentiary vat. Well, he didn't got caught, and that is the same to me. What happens when people get caught? It's not good. It ain't good at all, Well, it's not bad, not good at all. So what's going to happen next? couple of things can happen there next. Couple of things will happen next. You know what that is? Then it did happen. And even Ozzy Osbourne today, when he died, he died wealthy. And you know, in England, if you go to Birmingham, England, and you are somewhere in Birmingham, you'll find a bridge. You know what the name of that bridge is? The Black Sabbath Bridge. And you look that up on Google Maps. I found it. Look at Birmingham. Look up Black Sabbath Bridge, and it will point you right to where it is in Birmingham, called the Black Sabbath Bridge. Know what happened? The band Black Sabbath got so wealthy that they literally put this town named the bridge in their name. Believe it or not, because they got wealthy, it made them. They are not around. Today they retired. They don't do it anymore. But honestly, things not easy. Being a rock star, one. When you get into drugs, that's a different story. Rock star getting drugs and alcohol, and what happened? They running to the next thing you know, they're running to alcohol, AA, they're running to Suntrack at Mission City. I want to stop drinking now. I drink too much and it costing me money. I need to quit. Well, sure. Go in, start talking away again. Okay, that's fine. Well, okay. And then they keep coming back. And back on the booze they go. And they cut spray. Finally, they end up in detox center, lying there. Finally, get off of booze, detox from booze completely. Want to detox from abuse and the booze. You know what happened next? Well, think and guess what happens next. Well, two things will happen. You know what that is? It's going to be a great day, and one thing will happen. You know what that is? Not just that, it will be not only that. One thing do happen that time, and get out of rehab, out of drug rehab, and all that. They come back on stage. They're performing better themselves, selling more records, but staying away from booze. Ozzy Osbourne had to go through rehab. Well, tell you something he did do. I admit to that, and he told me what happened. That one, E.B. McGarty told me this. He bit a head off a bat. Somebody threw a bat, and he thought it was a stuffed bat, and he picked it up, bit the head off a stuffed bat, and it was a real bat. He had to go and get rabies shot afterwards, and that was painful. It was very painful treatment to administer rabies vaccination for that. Whoa. Anyway, so and bats carry a lot of diseases too. Think about that. Well, that's true. But he done what he did off stage or not. He went out. He walked down a whole big area. He walked into very dangerous neighborhoods in Los Angeles, like Rampart and all these gang-infested areas. He had come across street gangs and talked to them and told them, hey, this is not a life for you. Break up. And some of these street gangs actually did stop being a gang, and they broke up. And they led very productive lives after that, for example. Some people poor and panhandle. He'd go down. I'll see somebody busking on a corner, sing one of Ozzy's songs, sit there, then take and turn around and see an old beat up guitar. Ozzy would turn around, buy this person a brand new guitar, booking time in a studio, and get a music recorded, things like that. He's done things. Or he'll help somebody who's so poor that they couldn't afford clothes on back, taking a house, getting a whole bunch of clothing. But he helped war vets. More than one thing, he actually helped war veterans on us that were suffering from everything, from insurance to everything else. Oh, yeah. Believe it or not, he was more of a helper in society and most, even Beatles helped some young person playing a guitar in the subway. School got sacked. The Beatles went and bought a brand new guitar and got a music school. Think about it. There was a 15-year-old kid in the New York subway station playing. Ozzy Osbourne turned around, got a music school, and got a brand spanking new electric guitar. Yeah, think about it. It's pretty easy. Yeah. This is how Ozzy really spending money. He didn't spend it on drugs anymore. He spent it on helping people. He established few foundations. He actually bought a couple of hotels too. Think about it. He did whole much to help people. Unbelievable. And you know what? People don't what you see on stage, that's a show. This is what he did off stage. There are many YouTube videos showing him this. I recommend you go to these YouTube videos out there. You can watch them on YouTube. I only give you hints of what the best ones were, but there are many of them there. I've seen hundreds and thousands of videos. So of that already. And he's been my guardian angel. And I'm gonna have to ask him here. He's sitting on here on the couch so I can see him. I can't see him. Oh, hey Ozzy. Yeah, yeah. How are you doing? And yeah, being a rock star, being a rock star, yeah. He said being a rock star is not easy. It easier being an angel than a rock star. that Ozzy. That way Ozzy, it's better being an angel and rock star. Anyways. Well, I'm gonna get off the air here. Vlog is over. I thought I'd bring this about rock stars and what to do off day. Because a lot of people don't know. I had a young kid, Wendy. He was around 15. I said to him, he wanted to be, I want to go on stage with a big rock star, blah, blah, blah. And I told him, it's easier to say this than to do it. You have to have it in heart. But even if you did, you got to watch out because that you get exhausted, tired, touring constantly every day. And by the time you take uppers get high, they get addicted to drugs. It can be a disaster, and a shooting party could wipe you out too. And I said this to him, and he looked at me and said, "Holy shit, I don't want to do it." I sort of said that, and I gave a helping hand. I felt good about it. His mom and dad were there and looked at me and said, "How do you know that?" "Well, you all want to be rock." Told me this, and I told him it wasn't easy said and done. Well, I think he got through. We've been trying to tell him the same thing. Well, I'm in my late 60s, so I know how to do things right. Well, I got through them, and he after finish, he didn't want to be a rock star. He wanted to be. He decided, what about? I said, no, good job for you, and the already open and pay well. They're going to school, learning how to be a pastor in church, and that job pays well and it gives you a lot. Or going to school and learning how to be a priest in Anglican church or Catholic church. These jobs will pay you more than anything. Or you may choose to take a job working a cargo freighter in the lakes. So that job pays well, and it's a long job, it's lonely. So you got to be careful about that. Anyway, enough said about it. I'm going to get off the air here. But he just decided he'd want to get in. Or another proper job that I told him about, mining, go work in a mine like Sudbury, or go up north and work in uranium mines that been advertised on TV. Good money there. You might get to enjoy it for a while, but uranium also you might end up having cancer the rest of your life. But you know what? You made a lot of money up. Think about it. Anyway, I told him that, or buying or opening a mine, opening a silver or gold mine and mine it. Yeah, I know a friend of mine who owned a gold mine. Yeah, and down in California. See, you know how much gold coming out of mine? How about 50,000 pounds a day, an hour comes out of that mine. You know what money made? That $52 million an hour that this person I know makes an hour running a gold mine. I've been there. It's very big. It's one of the biggest productive gold mine in California. Well, who owned it before? Well, Sudbury decided they're going to close it, but unfortunately, he buys it after they closed it got it for 2,500. And he didn't really planning on turning a productive mine. But, thing was, I was there at that time, her in California. And I went down at mine and I looked around, went down one level of mine, and they drilled that level. Drilled 2 core bore samples where all the gold is taken out of the mountain, where gold was mined out there, where mined out, all the mineral ore products were taken out, basically. So there was no ore deposit left. There's no ore deposit there left, There's no ore deposit in there left, based in that area. The core board sent to the Department of California USDS geology one. They looked at the sample and it gave the go ahead for Inco to shut the mine down, basically, what they did, and they actually abandonment papers were filed for the mine. And guess what? Judy found out about. She buys the mine, which 3 days after abandonment, she buys it for some reason. Whether wanted to, bought it for 2 reasons. Bought more to show tourists about mining. But when I went in, I walked in with another geology professor from McMaster University. Me and geology professor Spence of geology walked dean of geology at Mac. We went through that mine. We went all the drift level that the electrics were on, and plus the old caretaker. And we went down. We went to one level, the bottom level where the last mining. And there was so much gold ore, it just glistened off the walls like crazy. And it was gone on. There's a lot of gold ore, not vein they found, haven't even started mining it yet. These are huge veins of gold found down there. That was a 1,500 level of that mine. And you can, and that until have equipment in there, haven't brought up or nothing yet left. Exact hammers and stuff. All this stuff to get the gold out, and very electric backhoe and all. Caparo was still on, but we know what we did? Right away, I took samples from that. We actually, geology professor knocked off a few samples with a hammer there, and he took them up, and he took other samples, and we took another core bore hole in that area down another 500, 600 feet from the bottom mine, and there were gold deposits. There were thousands of veins of gold in there. So many we lost count, but we'd seen their core order, so much gold, unbelievable. Well, right off the bat, as soon as we did that, I said, you know what? This mine is very productive. What Inco did is mining fraud. Of course, what did they do? Well, the miners wanted to unionize there in California. So when they didn't want to unionize, they said, Inco didn't want to unionize, so they closed the mine down. When soon they got the union started, they shut the mine down, so they wouldn't have to pay the union raise their workers. We opened another gold mine in Central America. Yeah. Soon as the United States government, soon as the government found out about it, and about a fake abandonment, but a gold mine is very productive, but they said gold was mined out. Guess what happened? The unabandoned status went to an active status. Went to an active status, and the claim was transferred over to my the friend's name immediately. And you know what? The mine was reopened almost within we went through Inco files. We got all workers and stuff. We called them all back to work. We called every miner. They laid off. They're back in immediately. And now, as soon as we got the miners in, right off the bat, it's been no time at all. One day we stored something like they took out over 20,000 ounces of gold out. Over 20,000 tons of gold came out of that one area mine and still kept coming. And still coming out today. That is 100% pure gold, unionized workforce that does it, paid union wages to do it. And the mine is productive, making Judy health billionaire. Not only that, the mine was asked by in England by on 10 Dowling Street. The British approached Judy's mine about they needed a replacement handle made for the coronation carriage for King Saul, because the original handle was broken and all the pieces of that handle 14 karat gold, pure 100 pure gold, the handle 100 pure gold. So what they needed to do, make a new replica handle. I didn't want to make a fake. I didn't want to make a cheap imitation. Didn't want to do a Timu fake on it. So, well, you know what they did? Here's what happened. So Judy sent the gold to England. It arrived. They took it in to a foundry and they processed it and made that gold handle for the coronation carriage there. And guess what? Judy was invited to a coronation while me being a friend, I had a private, we actually flew over there, actually in the British Air Force plane to Britain. I didn't have to go for customs. So funny because after her, she owned a Learjet and he bought his own private plane. We got there and it was a very nice time. Huge coronation. It's unbelievable. And I had my cell phone. I know, and Clyde Bowman called me long distance. And I was sitting there, and it cost me a lot of money for overseas call. I would call from North America. It cost me almost $80 just for a 2-minute phone call. I wasn't happy about that. And so Clyde, don't ever do that again. Yeah, that was expensive too. So it was very nice. So very good, actually. And after King was done, we went to Actually, we had taken to Buckingham Palace, and we went in. We actually had a meeting with King Saul. I talked to him face to face, like I'm talking to you. It was quite interesting, very interesting me to be sitting here talking to royalty. That's interest, and to see there and stand there. And he told me, things like, what I do now, please don't tell any about my personal life. I got a job a king to do. Don't have a personal life, he said. You know what I'm talking about? And we had a very nice meal, big, huge meal. I got it was big, a 10-course meal of everything on this house, so full and stuff. And we slept all night. Me and got up the next day. We got on a military plane, flew back to Canada, landed at the where we landed the plane at. They landed there at the down Petawawa, Ontario. We got off a plane. Didn't have to go through customs. Well, we had Judy's Learjet was parked at the military base as well. So we went there, and you know what happened was? We got to Learjet, and it was clean, and the interior clean, spotless. So clean and unbelievable. The galley was cleaned up and spotless. Any dirty dish in the sink was not there anymore. And, well, and even how the armed forces did, what asked by King Saul to do a full tune-up overhaul on that jet. I needed some work done. There were a coffee maker got blowing a breaker in the cockpit for some reason with it. And we had it been to a couple of mechanics in the U.S. They couldn't figure out why. I've been to a Boeing mechanic. He couldn't figure it out. I've been to a Learjet authorized service dealer. He couldn't figure out why the coffee maker kept popping a breaker. Yeah. So what happened was, and even Mount Hope, another near Mount Hope, he can figure out why the coffee breaker tripping on the coffee maker all the time and wasn't being used. And so we went in kettle for instant coffee. So finally, no happened. Well, finally, well, and we instead we landed at the Air Force. We landed at Petawawa. I said to people work on MiG fighters and trained military mechanics the same problem. And the military actually said we have electrician, they have the airplane special electrician that work on just on airplanes now. They went in and they took a look at it. Well, apparently with factory boo boo. No, they did. Decided to save some money on, you know what? The Learjet wanted to save money on the cost of the plane, so they cut a corner there. Corner they cut was, take a guess. You want to know? I know. I can tell you. They cut a corner on there by putting in two hydro items on the same circuit breaker. And you know what that was? One was a jet. They tied a jet fuel pump in there that draws, a 30 amp pump, a 34 amp pump. And they have a coffee maker that draws another 34 amp. So they ran a 2 and 1 34 amp breaker. And I wonder why it was tripping. Huh. That's why it keeps tripping. They couldn't figure it out. And, well, what they did do is the nexus spot in the panel box for breaker, they put a separate 30 amp, 4 amp fuel pump breaker there, and they put the other one, and they left the one for coffee maker. They replaced it with a new circuit breaker, and then it problem fixed. And I just said, why? And I said, I don't know why Learjet did that. Wow. While Drew, when we found out about, we got a whole Learjet, and they said, did you know we do? I know what you did. You took two high amp items on one breaker that is 34 amps in the cockpit. Why did you do that? That's a little I have. And it turned out they wouldn't give me a straight answer. And I looked, they said, something, doing that, you could have, tripping up breaker, setting off a fuel pump on flight, it could have caused the plane to crash, And I didn't. I told them that, and they didn't. They go on, but that we do it all the time to cut costs. Well, I told the FAA. I told the FAA about it, and no what else. And I told the United States. I told the FAA on it, and know what they did? They actually said this one, and told the NTFB this one what could cause a plane crash. Well, the NTFB started investigating, he learned that and found about every model made, they did the same thing. Except this one was corrected by a licensed Canadian military mechanic that knew what it was, fixed it right away with a defect. As a result, they saying that and that, apparently Learjet got himself in a lot of trouble for this. It could have caused a serious crash. And I said, I wonder how many other, and I said, do you make doing other types of jets besides Learjets in the facility? Well, we make Airbus and Boeing, we make Airbus jets and that too. What did they do? They went and checked that with Airbus, and they found out the same wiring, same diet, same thing, putting triple load, overloading a breaker for a coffee maker with another 30, by putting 230 amps on one circuit, 234 amp breakers on one circuit. No. But actually, airline companies found out about it and they fixed it right away. But anyway, usually plane got world destination on it. So I used to go down back to Saragota that way all the time. No, I have to go through customs. Because royalty don't go for customs. Only any visitors on a plane that is designated by King Saul out III. Wow, as as a private plane belonging to King Arthur III. Well, you know what? It can land at any airport, and the registration number goes on it sits on a custom database that anybody on a jet is members of the royal family and cannot and will not be exempt from any immigration details, which actually King Saul is exempt from that when he lands. So that thing about being king is exempt, but when they put a world destination onto somebody else's private plane, that makes that plane exempt from any customs declaration. Now today I don't go down too much down there anymore. Anyway, I haven't gone in a couple of months because when I was down before Donald Trump came in, I had a permit. I got a permit there, and I had applied for a volunteer permit. Applying for doing a volunteer type permit, basically. It's what you do for U.S. government. You can apply for. I applied for that permit. That I go in there on basis I'm not getting paid for work or anything else. I'm doing it voluntarily on my time, not being paid by any means, but but doing so. So that what it was. So that permit was good. And soon as Donald Trump came into office, well, and when he started doing the ICE kick, trying to do the ICE immigration kick in there, in the United States, and doing we have birthright gender stuff, I just that, and I decided the permit was coming up for renewal too. So I decided to cancel. Decided not to renew the permit. I just let the permit expire. I didn't renew it. I'm not going to renew it unless Donald Trump, get voted. If Donald Trump lose the next election out of office, then I might vote in. Only if the other government brings that back, take that off the books. Only if that. So I just hang on to the next election. Donald Trump might get voted out, and somebody else will be in the place. But I think the best thing I heard came when the astronaut returned home from Canada back from being in deep space for almost 2 weeks traveling did something that nobody had ever done before and came back. They went history around the world had brought not only that, it brought a sense of being to us, but also it couldn't when do that here. Other civilizations, don't worry, I know the worlds and civilizations out in space that we haven't discovered yet. And when we do discover them, again, some will welcome, some will have disaster consequences. But you know what? I think maybe Canada, Earth may have a first contact soon. And even first contact in intelligent alien race, they would not ever come straight in and come to us like that. Or they would stay well enough away. They observe from the distance. They probably observed the whole thing to move back. By that point, then they wouldn't make first contact with individuals. They will make first contact with people like professors and scientists right away. That way they make contact. To make and I understand that too. Way if you made first contact with me, and I can go back and tell them all about this. Anyway, so I look at it and I know one thing. They are not really. They are when they get this, they discover out they already have, but when they see what we just did, I think they're gonna have a visit that they're gonna come, and then they're gonna approach scientists, intergalactic professors of campuses before they approach. Now they will understand more than what most humans are. They might, me, I could understand, yeah, but the first contact could have a disaster consequence too. So now And that's something that the bridge that have to be crossed in the future for contact bridge. And I don't think we'll be ready for that yet. I think we're close, but not quite ready, but almost. Anyways, I would say vlog over. Thank you for listening. End of transmission.